never see the quiet ones coming." That was the line scrawled almost as an afterthought in a battered notebook that Tyler tucked under his arm one cloudy Monday morning. He'd read it somewhere, maybe a self-defense blog or a motivational site, and it stuck in his mind for reasons he couldn't fully articulate. For Tyler, being quiet wasn't some calculated strategy. It was just natural. He was the kid who dodged the spotlight at all costs, who half-slouched in the back row, hood often drawn up, mind usually lost in books or daydreams. If there was a prime target for bullies, it was him. The bullies at Regency High had a gift for sniffing out the vulnerable, the ones they assumed wouldn't or couldn't fight back. Tyler, with his thin build, his perpetually lowered gaze, and his unwavering politeness, was practically begging to be their punching bag. For years, he'd endured it, the sneers in the hall, the stolen lunches, the stray insults that grew bolder each day. He accepted them like it was part of the daily routine, never firing back. Perhaps a part of him hoped that if he kept his head low, they'd lose interest. But if life had taught him anything, it was that some bullies never get bored. They only escalate. And in Tyler's case, that escalation was led by a single name that made his stomach twist with dread: Ryan. Ryan was the star athlete, shining brighter than most kids ever dared to dream. The school cafeteria seemed to revolve around his table. His voice echoed in the corridor, and people parted as if he were royalty. Adults saw him as charming. Teens saw him as a natural leader. Tyler, however, saw Ryan's other face, a predator hungry for power who thrived on intimidation. "Look what the cat dragged in," Ryan would say whenever Tyler passed him in the hallway. He'd elbow Tyler's books to the floor or trip him just as he reached his locker. The mocking was relentless. "What's up, bookworm? Someone steal your voice?" Tyler tried to shrug it off, not letting them see the flash of anger he buried. If they saw him break, it'd only amuse them more. One day, Tyler was rummaging through his locker, retrieving a well-worn paperback novel. Suddenly, it was snatched from his hand. He spun to see Ryan looming over him, a half-smirk pinned on his lips. "5 Easy Steps to Being a Loser? That your new read?" Ryan cracked, waving the novel around. His buddies burst into laughter. A flush rose in Tyler's face. He forced down the impulse to lash out. Ryan's sneer deepened at Tyler's silence. "Bet you want to crawl under a rock, huh?" Ryan shoved Tyler backward, scattering notebooks across the tiled floor. Tyler stumbled, but remained upright, refusing to give them the spectacle of him falling. He gathered his books while bystanders either snickered or pretended not to see. This was the daily normal: suffer, gather, and hurry to class. But something was shifting within Tyler, no matter how much he tried to ignore it. He felt it in the dull ache in his chest whenever he tried to swallow his pride. He felt it in the tension coiling in his gut every time Ryan swaggered near. He was tired of waking up dreading the next humiliation, the next bruise to his dignity. People might call him spineless. The truth was more complicated. Tyler had a secret. His father once was a decorated martial arts instructor, training military personnel, security teams, you name it. Growing up, Tyler had spent countless hours in dojos, absorbing technique after technique. He never bragged about it. After his father's passing a few years ago, Tyler had promised himself that he would use those skills only for self-defense and serious danger, never to bully or show off. So he went on living quietly, keeping his father's memory and everything he taught him locked away. For the Bullies, Tyler's mild manner felt like an invitation, but for Tyler, it was a moral line in the sand. He didn't want violence. He didn't want to cause pain. Yet day after day, that line was tested. It all came to a head during Spirit Week. The school was awash with banners and pep talks, everyone excited for the culminating Friday talent show. Students were signing up to sing, juggle, or do comedic sketches. Tyler obviously had no interest. He kept his distance from anything that drew a crowd. But on Thursday morning, the day before the show, he noticed a cluster of curious stares and laughter as he walked in. People pointed at him, murmuring behind hands. Something was off. He reached his locker and found a note taped across the door in neon pink. Tyler, can't wait for your big performance tomorrow. Don't disappoint us. Loser performance? That made no sense. Tyler stormed, as stormy as he could manage, to check the sign-up list posted in the cafeteria. And there it was, his name in bold marker for the final slot. A wave of dread slammed him. He hadn't volunteered for anything. Instantly, he knew the culprit, Ryan. This was a prank, a surefire way to humiliate him in front of the entire student body. The moment he stepped on stage with no act prepared, the crowd would devour him. By the time he reached the first class, the entire school seemed to buzz with rumors about the quiet kid's big debut. Hardly anyone expected genuine talent. They expected a meltdown. The day blurred. Tyler's stomach churned, mind racing with half-formed plans. Could he fake sick? Hide in the library? He wasn't about to get on that stage, but then he realized that if he fled, it'd only confirm his cowardice, and Ryan would keep tormenting him. The day ended with Tyler more anxious than ever. Friday arrived, and the auditorium pulsed with energy. The talent show stage was decked out with cheap lighting, the seats overflowing with excited students. The MC fired up the crowd, announcing each act with gusto. Laughter and applause echoed as performers sang pop songs, danced, or told jokes. Tyler, forced by the sign-up, hovered near the backstage area in tense silence, fully expecting an epic public shaming. He was last on the schedule, giving the Bullies plenty of time to hype the crowd for his spectacular fail. When the MC finally boomed, "And now, put your hands together for Tyler Walker," the auditorium erupted, some genuinely curious, most just anticipating comedic disaster. Tyler trudged on stage, heart pounding. The bright lights blinded him, the mic stand looking like an instrument of torture. He stared out over a sea of faces, some bored, some mocking, many with phones raised to record. Ryan and his group sat front and center, grinning ear to ear. Nerves knotted Tyler's throat. He grabbed the microphone. He had no routine, no music. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing emerged but a rasp. Then a metallic feedback squeal cut through the speakers. The crowd hooted in delight, some sabotage from Ryan, no doubt. Laughter exploded. Ryan doubled over, tears in his eyes, high-fiving his cronies. Tyler's cheeks burned with shame. He felt pinned, like an insect under glass. "Look at him," someone jeered. "This is gold." More shrieks of laughter, every fiber of Tyler's being cried out to flee, and he almost did. Almost dropped the mic and sprinted off stage. But some voice inside him whispered, "You can't run forever." So he took a breath, bowed his head, and whispered a few words into the mic. "Thanks for the invite, Ryan," he said, voice shaky but resolute. I hope you enjoy your last laugh." The crowd fell silent, uncertain what that meant. Tyler walked off, the entire auditorium swirling with confusion. The bullies, for a moment, looked unsettled. Then they erupted into mocking cheers, calling it the worst performance ever. For Tyler, though, that small act of defiance marked a turning point. He stepped into the hallway, heart still hammering. This time, the shame gave way to a flicker of anger. That evening, Tyler sat alone in his bedroom, the memory of the humiliating show replaying on loop in his mind. The laughter, the squeals, the sabotage. He could still see Ryan's triumphant face relishing Tyler's embarrassment. Tyler's fists clenched, remembering how his father once taught him that ignoring bullies wasn't always the answer. "There's a time for peace and a time to stand up," he'd said. Tyler inhaled deeply, then rose to his feet. He moved the desk aside, clearing a small space on his bedroom floor. He began a slow kata, movements from the martial arts discipline his father had drilled into him from childhood. Each technique lit a spark of confidence within him, stirring up old memories. The hours of relentless practice, the sweat, the bruises, and the eventual triumph when he'd finally bested opponents far bigger than himself. He remembered how he'd promised never to harm anyone, but how long could he endure cruelty before deciding enough was enough? Tomorrow would decide everything. If Ryan insisted on a confrontation, Tyler wasn't going to hide. For once, he'd let them see who he truly was. And if they picked a fight, well, they'd regret it. The next morning, a quiet tension gripped Regency High's halls. News of Tyler's short but puzzling performance had spread. Rumors claimed he challenged Ryan to a fight. Others said he was planning some elaborate revenge. The bullies shrugged it off. "He's a joke," they insisted. But some students sensed a shift in the air. The typical hush around Tyler as he walked in had changed. Now, people gave him a second glance, as though noticing for the first time that behind those downcast eyes, something was brewing. And so it began. Ryan spotted Tyler at his locker, spurred on by the memory of last night's fiasco. He was itching to put Tyler back in his place. Surrounded by his cronies, he marched over with that trademark strut. Tyler finished retrieving a worn library book and closed his locker calmly. Ryan blocked his path. "Care to explain that little stunt last night?" Ryan sneered. "Thought you'd do some comedic routine, but all you managed was a squeak." His gang snickered on cue. Tyler eyed him, expression unreadable. "It wasn't a stunt," Tyler said evenly, "but I do have something to show you." Ryan frowned, caught off guard by the confidence in Tyler's tone. "Show me what?" he asked. Tyler simply shook his head. "You'll see." That cryptic response annoyed Ryan, fueling his bravado. He swatted the book from Tyler's hands, sending it skidding across the floor. "You think you're tough now, big man?" he hissed. "Prove it." Tyler's gaze flicked to the corridor around them, filled with gawking spectators. In the past, he'd have retreated, mumbled an apology. Not today. He squared his shoulders. "If that's what you really want," he said quietly, "then let's take it outside." No reason to wreck the hallway. The watchers gasped, words spreading like wildfire. Tyler had just invited Ryan for a face-to-face confrontation. The sheer audacity electrified the student body. They streamed out behind them as Tyler strode toward the side parking lot, Ryan trailing with an uncertain smirk. His friends followed, excitement glowing in their eyes. A midday showdown was about to erupt. Outside, the sky was overcast, a brisk wind cutting across the asphalt. Students gathered in a wide circle, phones out, adrenaline pumping. Ryan cracked his knuckles, adopting a fighter's stance. He was a star athlete, well-built, quick on his feet. He was sure Tyler would fold under real pressure. Meanwhile, Tyler calmly set his backpack against a wall as though preparing for a routine exercise. Then he turned to face Ryan. "Ready to cry?" Ryan taunted, stepping forward. Tyler inhaled, recalled the stances his father had taught him, and lowered into a balanced position. The crowd murmured, eyes flicking from Ryan's bulging muscles to Tyler's unassuming frame. A single hush fell as they realized Tyler might not be bluffing. Even from a distance, there was a focus in his posture they'd never seen. Ryan lunged first, fist snapping forward. He aimed for Tyler's chest, expecting to land a powerful blow right away. But Tyler pivoted in a fluid motion, letting Ryan's punch skim empty air. Ryan nearly tripped from the force of his own momentum. The watchers gasped, some clapping. Ryan, surprised, spun and tried again, launching a kick. Tyler slid aside so gracefully it looked choreographed and used minimal force to redirect Ryan's leg. Ryan stumbled, arms flailing. "What?" he growled, shaking off confusion. The crowd's tension soared. Tyler remained centered, exuding a calm that rattled Ryan's usual confidence. Sensing he needed to overpower Tyler fast, Ryan rushed in with a flurry of attacks. Punch, punch, elbow, kick. Yet each was dodged, blocked, or deflected with startling efficiency. The fight dragged on, or perhaps it was never truly a fight. It was more a demonstration of skill, and Ryan was on the losing side. At last, Tyler struck. With a quick sweep and a controlled push, he sent Ryan sprawling onto the concrete. The circle of onlookers erupted in gasps. Ryan coughed, face scraping on the ground, fury in his eyes. He scrambled up, a bruised ego driving him to keep going. But Tyler gave him no chance. In the next instant, Tyler seized Ryan's arm, employing a joint lock that pinned the bigger teen in place. Ryan winced, panic flooding him as he realized Tyler could break his arm if he pushed further. The crowd fell silent. This was a new order. The kid everyone dismissed was standing victorious, while the campus king was pinned to the ground, powerless. Ryan's chest heaved with frustrated rage and pain. Tyler leaned in, voice low but crystal clear so that the nearest students could hear, "I'm done being your punching bag." Then he released Ryan, stepping back. A hush, thick with tension, hung in the air. Ryan rose unsteadily, glancing around at the ring of wide-eyed peers, searching for a lifeline or a shred of dignity. The hush broke into scattered applause, some in awe of Tyler's skill, others relieved to see the bully dethroned. Without another word, Tyler scooped up his backpack, ignoring the sting on his arms from earlier deflections, and walked away, the circle parting like the Red Sea. People stared in stunned silence, letting him pass. He had made his statement. Rumors exploded across the school. By the last bell, everyone had heard or seen clips of Tyler's showdown with Ryan. For once, Tyler's name wasn't spit out with contempt. It was uttered with respect, or, at minimum, fascination. The biggest question was, where did he learn that? Ryan vanished for a few days, presumably nursing bruises, physical and emotional. Meanwhile, Tyler carried on, not bragging or letting the newfound attention bloat his ego. He kept to his routine, though a subtle aura of confidence now replaced the old meekness. The hush in the hallways when he passed was different. It wasn't pity or scorn. It was recognition. Some students tried congratulating him. Others tentatively asked if he'd teach them moves. Tyler politely declined. He wasn't looking to become a sensei. He'd done what needed to be done. By Wednesday, Ryan returned, quiet and subdued. No more snarky remarks at Tyler, no more mocking laughs. He avoided Tyler's gaze, almost flinching whenever he spotted him in the cafeteria. The power dynamic had flipped, and ironically, Tyler had no desire to keep the upper hand through fear. He'd proven his point. If you push someone to a breaking point, don't be surprised if they fight back. Days turned into weeks, and tension melted away. Freed from Ryan's harassment, Tyler discovered life at Regency High could be bearable, even pleasant. One afternoon, he was reading under a tree in the courtyard when Ryan approached, alone. Tyler tensed, half expecting a second showdown, but Ryan just stood there, hands in pockets. "You, mind if I sit?" he asked, voice subdued. Tyler gave a small nod, wary but not hostile. For a while, neither spoke. The sounds of students drifting around the campus, the rustle of leaves overhead, set the stage for the strangest meeting between two once bitter foes. Then Ryan inhaled. "Look, I know I can't take back what I did," he murmured. "I didn't realize you'd—" He stopped, wincing. "I just never figured you'd stand up to me like that. I guess I got used to nobody fighting back." Tyler closed his book. He studied the scuff marks on Ryan's sneakers, sensing the depth of the kid's shame. "You shouldn't have picked on me or anyone," Tyler said simply, voice not unkind, just factual. "Not everyone's going to respond like I did, but nobody deserves to be bullied." Ryan exhaled, eyes haunted by regret. "I messed up. Bad. I'm sorry. I mean it." Tyler could see the sincerity. It didn't erase years of torment, but it was a start. "The only reason you regret it is because I fought back?" Tyler asked, a slight edge in his tone. Ryan hesitated, then shook his head. "At first, maybe, yeah. But I see now how messed up it was. I guess it took me losing everything, my rep, my friends," he paused, voice hitching, "to realize I was the problem." Silence. Then Tyler sighed. "Apology accepted," he said. "But change for good, not because you lost a fight." Ryan nodded, relief flooding his features. He rose, gave Tyler a small, grateful look, and walked away. Tyler stayed behind, letting the moment sink in. The sense of closure felt surreal. The star athlete and the quiet kid parted ways, no high fives or dramatic embraces, just an unspoken understanding that some lines had been crossed, some lessons learned. Weeks later, the campus hum seemed less tense, more open. Tyler no longer hid behind books in the corner. People said hey to him in the hall without sarcasm. Ryan quietly integrated into smaller social circles, no longer commanding them with an iron fist. It was as though the entire school took a collective breath, relieved that the drama had deflated. For Tyler, the real victory wasn't the final blow he landed on Ryan. It was the sense that he could walk these halls upright, no longer overshadowed by fear. He still loved his books, still avoided big crowds. But now, that was by choice, not out of terror. And if he glimpsed someone else getting teased, he'd calmly intervene, letting the bullies know he was watching. That was enough to make them think twice. In the end, the day Tyler decided to shed his passivity was the day everything changed. The bullies picked on the wrong kid, expecting a perpetual victim. Instead, they found someone who'd quietly trained for years under a father's legacy. someone who recognized it was time to stand up for himself. And in that moment, regret was inevitable, because you can only push kindness so far before it pushes back. For Tyler, the real strength wasn't in the strikes and sweeps. It was in deciding he didn't have to remain invisible or powerless or silent. Sometimes, all it takes is stepping forward to remind the world and yourself that being quiet does not mean you're weak. And for those who had laughed at him, who had stolen his lunch or sabotaged him on stage, the regret stung like a bruise that refused to fade. They'd learn that the quiet ones often have the loudest roar, once pushed too far.